Have you ever thought about paint? I know I have, and I think it's time that we start talking about what brands are going to help us move us forward in our painting journey. Because, like me, I watch quite a lot of YouTube painters and I see them using different paints, different ranges, and I end up trying to replicate that with the wrong paints. So I go out and I buy the paints and we cascade. But now it's time to start thinking about, with a new year here and on the horizon, so I'm just thinking about painting properly. So this video isn't really designed to be a you must use this sort of paint. I think each company and each brand use their own thing, but I think having watched videos from lots of different YouTubers, I've found it sort of like a minefield of like, what does each paint do? How does it work? What's the consistency like? What's the purpose of it? So over the last 2 years, I've bought 4 different paint ranges, basically in its entirety. I started with the Vallejo model colour because I was watching Angel Geraldez, and like some of the stuff he was doing was amazing. I was like, I can replicate that. If I work hard enough, I can replicate that. And to a certain degree, in a short time frame, I kind of can when I put the time down. Then Army Painter's Speedpaint came out, and I wasn't really a fan of contrast, but I thought, you know what, I quite like the look of these. So I bought the entire range of Speedpaint 1.0. I put that through its paces, and largely I was impressed. And then I was like, oh, well, what if I don't want to speed paint? You know, the model colour, it's nice, works on a wet palette, but it doesn't really blend well. So I ended up then talking to a few Vallejo players and some commission painters, and I went, you know what, try Scale75. I was like, okay, here goes me buying the entire range of Scale75. And again, really nice, really interesting results. And then I came across Pro Acryl, and when I was talking about Scale75, I was debating, do I get Pro Acryl instead? And I was like, no, let's go with what's been recommended rather than what I think is a bit of a perception thing potentially. And so what I want to do is just show you what I've achieved with those 4 paint brands, so that when you come to doing your next painting project, you can think, oh, do I need some of that? So I think it's only fair that I show you how much model colour I've got. And as a paint system, I really like it. The colours are cool, the colours are easy, and I can paint models quite quickly with a fairly neutral palette, in so much that none of the colours are really garish or overly bright. But the model colour range I find is very brown heavy. So when I came to doing my Bayou and my Gremlins, it came in real handy, using things like deck tan and some of the blues to do their skin rather than the typical green. And I found it a really useful little set of paints. But I quickly found that for wargaming rather than historics, I wanted a wider palette. And don't get me wrong, I think these are some of the most consistent paints I've got, and I think the new model colour, the new game colour even, is on par with this now, and it used to have a bit of a poor rep in comparison. So I can see it being super useful, and I did get some really nice colours. But I started to evolve past it quite quickly, and I think if you're doing flat colours with edge highlights, Space Marine, that sort of things, I think this is a lovely little paint set. And I will happily still use it, not as much as I do because I've now got the Pro Acryl range, and I think it supersedes it in this way from many a standpoint, with the exception of the full colour range is not there, but that's a second part. So like, it's nice, it's cheap, and more than important than anything, it's in dropper bottles. They're super easy, less wastage, no chance of it. I did have a few of their fluorescents for like lightsabers and things like that, so I've had a good run with them. They have been put aside for now. So in this bag I have a lot of speed paint. This is the original 1.0 mega set, and back in 1.0 speed paint there was obviously things of reactivating and all that sort of thing. Didn't bother me. It was quite a nice set, it worked, it did what I needed it to do. and when I have no time, it helps me out. I can paint models quickly, and I don't even have to slap chop it. Like literally just a black and a white zenithal, and not going up to that extreme with the dry brushing. It has some really good results. Is it my paint system of choice? No, but on a tight deadline, tight time frame, need it painted for an event, it's super useful and it can be done. You can still go back and like highlight over it, but I'd probably recommend varnishing it first. I did use this on my Walking Dead game and it worked really well, but I didn't varnish them, and I then did grime and half the paint came off, so I've got to redo it. But you know, it swings and roundabouts. Knowing that you can't apply mineral spirits is probably a given, unless you're me. So yeah, that's speed paint. No, this isn't a pizza box. It is in actual fact the Scale75 range of Scale Colour in particular. And I really enjoy this. I think it's a really good paint system. And the main thing I like about it is that the colours, there is such a variety as you can see in here. And you can do lots of different tones of leather. You can mix them, you can blend them. And from a blending point of view, because it's a gel-ish medium, it becomes such a transient product. You can literally water it straight down. It's got a decent pigment in it, and you can still put on loads of thin layers. So for a blending point of view, or even like a wet blend, or you know, just transitioning through colours, this is second to none for me. And if I had a million hours to paint a week, or even just 10, I'd probably use this a hell of a lot more. Models wise, I've painted quite a bit of it. I painted an entire 10 Thunders faction for a friend, and you know, acceptable. It worked, it did it quickly. The colours were different hues, so it worked really well. The thing I'm actually going to say about Scale Colour that I still use all the time, which is not the main paint range, I guess, is in actual fact their metallics. And get rid of my wet palette. Their Alchemy series of paints is astronomical. You've got your key colours in bronze, silver, gold, nice and simple paint range, and then you've got Alchemy colours. Now, if you're not familiar with the Scale Colour range, Alchemies are like tints, so you can go and add pink and purpley hues to your metal, so it gives you a much wider range. And although I have the Pro Acryl metals and the metallics, this is still my go-to. It's just astronomical. Like, you get, in each one of these you get 4 main colours and 4 tints, and it just gives you such variety in one pack. And I've got all 3, and I still, like, it's my go-to now. Like, I don't think I can change from this now. I think if I run out of one, I'm just going to replace it and go all in. And finally, although I am a teacher and I have many of these boxes, it's currently because I haven't cut a setup for the corner yet. Is that I have basically the entire Pro Acryl range. I'm missing one set, which I'm getting for Christmas, which is one of the YouTuber sets, set 3, I think. And from the get-go, I've just been impressed, like ridiculously impressed. The pigment is high quality. The models that I put on, it just works. I'm just lost for words. The golds and metallics are good. I don't think they're as good as Scale Colour, but they're just there, and I think this is one of the reasons why I'm in the naughty corner. I have 4 entire paint ranges, and I almost bought the Army Painter Complete Master Set of 2.0 because, more colours. But in actual fact, when I get down to brass tacks of it, I reach for this. I reach for Pro Acryl, and I reach for my Scale Colour metals. And I think between those two things, I can pretty much paint wherever I want. And I think that's where you've got to make the decision. Hopefully, from this video, you've seen different types of models that can be used and how they can be showcased as their strengths. I think it's a bit of a clarity here for me as well about what I'm going to use moving forward in my projects, like my Cities of Sigmar, which have been shown previously, and then how I'm going to do my Explorers faction for Vallejo. My 2024 goal is to paint the entire faction, which, you know, it's Vallejo. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it's about 130 models, and I want to go crazy with it. I want to take the time. So, you know, I think you should always paint with what you feel comfortable with, but be aware, I think there's some things that are enablers, and I think between this Pro Acryl main colour paint range and the Scale75 paints, I want to have some pretty sick looking models, and I hope you do too.